All right, you guys, welcome, and to everybody on the replay and all to my amazing people here. Gosh, I wish I knew the number, but it's like in the 40s of just the regular coffee talk. But this, welcome to Astrological Coffee Talk. I have my lemon water right here with me. Coffee Talk with Eric, and God, it's so hot too. Hot too. Today we're going to do Mercury Retrograde through all 12 signs. And so that will probably take more than an hour. But then I do have a surprise chart to look at. So that should be kind of fun as well. I'll keep the chat open just to see if anybody comes, and everybody in the replay. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm going to get right into the chart. Now, just so you know, it's 12:45 a.m. Eastern on the 18th. And the mic is good. You can hear me good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. And so on the 17th, which is what I'm looking at Pacific, it is 9:45 a.m. And this goes for 3 weeks. I'm a little confused because 3 weeks is August 8th, but they said the retrograde ends August 10th. So maybe it's just, a couple extra days or something. I don't know. I always feel like that it's usually exactly 3 weeks, but yeah, I'll just go with it. You know what I mean? But I think that's fascinating. And, I want to just remind you guys, I think we're going to experience, and there's been a lot of rumors on the internet about this with CERN, and I think they may have released it on regular media, that time is either speeding up or slowing down. I'm not sure because I don't watch the news and stuff, but I think that they're doing a lot of things with CERN that is actually messing up dimensions and portals, and it's very intentional. But so we may see, and I had some anomalies that I saw a few months back, if anybody remembers from my astro weather, where the moon, because every 12 hours it moves 6 degrees. Right? And the moon, there were some days, and I remembered it was like one time it was like a Gemini Cancer moon week, that it was like moving like 14 degrees. Like it was like really off. And I'm like, and I'm checking I'm checking the thing, and I'm like, no, like my calculations are right, but it's just moving faster. So, these types of things, that you may not notice or pay attention to, and the only reason why I notice it is because I do the astro weather and paying attention to the planetary movements as an astrologer. So it's just kind of fascinating. Now, this is the chart of that energy. And remember, I told you it could vary. This is obviously Arizona. It could vary if we were like Florida, maybe New York, but it probably would not change much in terms of the ascendants. All the planetary alignments are the same, but sometimes it could shift where, because you see this ascendant at 8 degrees, it could possibly go to the Aquarius rising. But more often than not, this is like the basic chart. Now, remember what I'm going to do today, but I'm not going to move the dial. We'll just have to imagine it. Because I want to do this for all 12 signs so everybody gets like a little understanding of how it can play out for their personal ascendant. I will go from Pisces and then do, the counterclockwise, then go to Aries and end with Aquarius risings. So the initial, I'm just going to give like an overall read, but it will also be that double entendre that it's also for the Pisces risings, okay? So we know that Leo's in the 6th house of health and work and daily routine, where the Mercury goes retrograde, okay? What's fascinating, it's towards the end of Cancer season, right before the cusp, and then you see we have this Aries moon in the 2nd house. Now, I'm going to zoom in, but, when you're dealing with this, even, with this as the energy and then the Pisces rising, there is this energy of the self and I am. And we look for the chart ruler in the 5th house, not conjunct the sun, but in the 5th house, Jupiter in Cancer, where there's got to be a focus on self-love and spirituality. But, in any chart, even though we're looking at the Mercury retrograde, we do want to pay attention to the chart ruler, sun and moon, because they're all kind of telling a story. I mean, obviously, I'm going to focus more just in terms of real interpretation, just the Mercury retrograde. But, in general, and this will play out for all the other ascendants as well, you guys, along the way. And please, just speak up if you have any questions or anything that you're seeing, questions wise or interpretation. With the Aries moon in the second house, there's an energy of risk taking. I find Aries moons to be very impulsive, assertive, and aggressive. Mind you, this is in the third decan. So this is Aries Sagittarius. When you have a fire sign in the second house at this time with the Mercury retrograde, and remember, this is after Saturn and Neptune have gone retrograde, along with Pluto, and then Chiron's coming up next. I forget the date. So what is the energy for July? Like I said last night, it's speaking to us about reanalyzing, reassessing, deep introspection, contemplating, going back and finishing things that we had already started, or going back and literally redoing things, okay? And so with Mercury in the sixth house, that's going to be about, the analytical, logical mind, our processing, but actual things for work in our daily routine. Maybe nutritional things. The second house is the pancreas, and sixth house is the pancreas and digestion, the small and large intestine, right? So, even what we're eating in our daily routine, because the sixth house is our health and hygiene, sicknesses and illnesses, with Mercury there and Leo, there's this energy of, okay, I need to eat more of the solar food. When you're looking for nutrition and food and health, you look at the second and sixth house. And when you have fire signs, it's really speaking to the solar food. This is kind of funny though, but wherever you have Aries at, if it's in the second or sixth, you have to watch out because you can eat very fast. And I know this literally because there's a Scorpio rising. Alana commented on all the time. She's like, you eat too fast. Enjoy your food. In Taurus risings, they will really enjoy their food and eat slow. Like, oh my God, she eats so slow. But this is all Taurus risings, right? Even Robin has shared that with me. She's like, yeah, I like to enjoy my food. So you'll see these tendencies. So just be aware of it and pay attention to it because they really ring true in a chart in a person's life. So Aries moon, second house, for this energy and specifically for the Mercury retrograde duration, this will cover the whole energy, and for the Pisces risings, try to be mindful and intentional not to eat so fast, right? Even though you have Saturn and Neptune here retrograde, it can speak to almost daydreaming, not paying attention to what's real. So you could just be binge eating or whatever, and because you're either working or you're just off in dreamland, and you're not having a sensibility of time, space, matter, and hey, time's an illusion anyway, right? But just be mindful of that. And then also the risk taking for speculation and for earning money. The Aries moon with Saturn and Neptune being there, and it's not really trining this Mercury in Leo by degree, just sign and house. I guess the 15 and the moon. It's more trining to the Chiron, not to the Aries moon, but you want to kind of pause. Saturn and Neptune and Aries is slowing down the Aries energy. You may have heard me say, I think remember during Aries season, I was like, Aries season will not feel the same until 2039, 2040. Because with Saturn and Neptune there, Saturn there to 2029, Neptune to 2039, Aries season it's pause, then initiate and go, right? Contemplate. And so even this trine to Mercury is kind of saying when we are kind of just taking a pause, we can have better digestion, right? When we're kind of logically paying attention to our health routine and the foods that we eat, and we're intentional, like, yeah, it's a pain in the butt, right, to cut up that watermelon and the fruits and a honeydew melon, or to shop and make sure you're getting organic and to clean your fruit, or if you grow it in the garden and picking it, but it's worth it, right, for your nutrition. And so that's something and because remember, it's not just these four, and then soon to be like four planets, and then the Chiron, the asteroid. So let's say 5 bodies of energy being retrograde, because Pluto's already in Aquarius, right? Remember, over here in the 12th house. It's also, this is happening while we're dealing with the health axis of the Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. So I'm still sensing that something's coming. And maybe some of you guys feel it too. And it's, always faith over fear. But I'd rather be, not stressed and be prepared. And I mean that in the sense of being on your health game. You have got to be maniacal, intentional. And I think all these retrogrades at this time happening, right before eclipse season, end of August, Pisces lunar eclipse. First week of September, or the second, I forgot if it's September, it may be around my birthday, but it may be September 12th or 13th, or I don't know the date, but literally the Virgo solar eclipse. There's going to be a shift, whether it's internet blackouts, financial, collapse. They're probably going to blow the dollar up like they're blowing up the Bitcoin, and then to inflate it, to then boom, pay attention to the rhetoric about Powell. Trump's just been talking about him and da-da-da. Oh, it should go down 3 points and da-da-da-da. And he wants to be, fired. And, there's a lot happening. And, I don't like to focus on it and pay attention to it so much, but on the sidelines, you always still want to be aware of what's going around, so that way you could be prepared. And so even for these Pisces risings, and just for any rising sign as we go through this, you guys, stay on the health axis. Your spiritual discipline and practice is always going to serve you, even more so when you look into the energies of these planets and these alignments. And then the Virgo South Node, is always, right, taking care of your digestion, but really being analytical and critical, because Gemini and Virgo get activated when there's a Mercury retrograde, because those are the rulers, right? It's at home in Gemini and Virgo, and also exalted in Virgo. So you want to pay attention to those houses. Obviously, we have the Uranus there, so that can really speak to, even at this time, things around the nervous system and stress. So if we're eating better, and we're being mindful and having a spiritual practice, then all these things fall into line. So one Eric, other thing. Yes, go ahead.
What's a couple questions? What's your take on, in the line of, preparing ourselves nutritionally for what's coming and health-wise? What's your take, number one, on hot foods versus cold foods? Like I eat, I'm like Alana, I go crazy with the watermelon, right? That's how I break my fast every morning.
Yeah, that's great.
But I know it's not good to eat it cold. So I take it out and let it sit for an hour.
That's smart. So
I think that cold foods generally in Ayurveda,
yes,
it's a no, right?
Yes.
You just don't eat cold foods, period. Salad,
exactly.
Eat a salad, but don't eat it right out of the refrigerator.
Ayurvedic, but also traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah,
they don't put ice on their body. They don't do the cold, right? Because, they have that mentality of like, cold is for a dead body, right? So, and then think about the energy of the body. Like one thing Alana mentioned last night we started doing, and it's good for men and women, right? Even just that little shot of cayenne pepper, or sprinkling some cayenne pepper in your on your, maybe it might not be so good on your watermelon, but you know what I mean, like in your salad or whatever, but just to have a little cayenne pepper every day. Because remember, dis-ease comes in the body wherever we have stagnant blood. So we want to keep the blood flowing and moving, and cayenne pepper, turmeric, and ginger are always going to be beneficial with that, right? But I would say, yes, always go with your intuition. Some say, oh, pay attention and eat with your blood type. I think it's a combination of all. But I think the intuition is always going to guide you because, you know, one thing I would say that I would decrease on, you've heard all the different nutritionists and food specialists on my show, whether it's Ami Diaz, Elizabeth Joseph, Joseph Octaviani from Life the Plant Way. A lot of them, you know, explain and all agree and say, right, that we know this. It's just research. Meat and dairy help with inflammation and mucus in the body. And mucus is the greatest thing of creating sickness and disease in the body. So that means we really want to have like the hot water, the hot lemon water, the fruits, you know, more room temperature. But even throughout the day when we're drinking water, if it's not hot, at least room temperature, because the ice cold stuff. And hey, it's hard for me too. I know this stuff, but you know, during the day, I'm like, oh man, can I put in like 2 or 3 ice cubes? You know what I mean? Like, because you know, especially out here, it's like 110. Like today, it's like a little chillier. It's 105. You know what I mean? It's just hot. So you know, but I think also it's about training our palates, right? So you know, I think that's a good thing. But yeah, that's a good question, and I would just say to eat with the circadian rhythms of the sun. Delay your first meal. You know, the sun sets later now, so but you still want to eat your last meal within 4 hours of when you go to bed, so it's proper digestion. So if you go to bed at 9, try to eat around 5:30. If you go to bed at 10, try to eat at 6. You know, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect world, right? Some of us, we got kids, we got this, that, whatever, but do the best you can and don't feel guilty if you're not on your square, you're not on your game, or you're just this and that or whatever. Don't get in a tailspin because you had 2 bad days. Just be like, okay, that happened. I'm gonna get back on it, right? I'm gonna get back to meditating 25 minutes a day tomorrow. I'm gonna get back to eating healthier. I had a bad day and I did this and I had, too much meat. I had ice cream and a mozzarella stick and, ooh, my friend came over and I had a little sip of wine. Whatever it is, don't judge yourself, right? Virgo South Node, and this is for this chart and all the signs, right? And look, this is perfect for you for the energy, but also for the Pisces rising. The South Node is in the 7th house with Mars in the kitchen. Mars is logistics, problem solving, our willpower, our drive, brothers, boyfriends. But in the kitchen, it's cutting, the knife, right? Cut your fruits and veggies. So the South Node, take care of the gut. Be particular, pay attention, have a spiritual practice, right? Speak into your water with gratitude, kind of corny and hokey, just like I talked to my precious plant. And that's what I actually named her, Precious Plant. I don't know. Sometimes I got to laugh at myself. If you guys knew old Eric, he would laugh at this Eric and be like, yo, what are you talking about, man? You sound crazy, But it's all good.
Eric, I'll add just one thing real
Yes,
quick.
please. Go ahead.
Don't mind. The whole thing about dairy and meat, I think your tribe is pretty well aware of that.
Yeah.
But I will say this, that if you're going to eat meat, and I'm 6 months away from, 6 months ago, I let go of complete veganism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was constantly testing my nutritional status and it was going into the toilet.
Yeah. And
Everybody,
that's why you have to check it. It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. Okay. And so I agree with you 100%. Do not beat yourself up if you're eating meat. You may be one of those people that need a certain amount of animal protein in order to thrive.
Yeah.
But I'll just say this, if you're going to eat meat and eggs, eat the very best quality.
Yes, grass finished, grass fed, organic.
Grass fed, grass finished. The egg should be pastured. If it doesn't say pastured on that box, those eggs are not the best ones for you. It should say pastured, even if it doesn't say organic, because organic has less of a meaning now than it used to.
Thank you.
Right?
I know that's right. Yeah.
Pastured eggs, 100% grass-fed and finished meat, pastured chicken, right? Chicken is probably the most highest consumed animal protein.
And honestly, that's the one right now The ones that I would say you're better off if you're going to eat a meat to eat the very lean and quality beef and steak. I wouldn't touch. I mean, this is just me. I'm just saying for Eric. I wouldn't touch the chicken, the chicken and turkey, right? Also known as chicken, but the chicken and turkey. And I love fish, but just like Joseph Octaviani explained, the
Yeah.
seafood and Elizabeth, they both has so many
It's
parasites. That's
so
why the
awesome.
wolves only eat the
Yeah.
fish heads, y'all. So if we watch what the animals do, they tell us, you know. And think about the biggest, strongest animals. They eat nuts, berries, and fruits. They don't eat meat, right? The orangutan, the gorilla, you know what I mean? Only the lion, but he's a carnivore. We're not carnivores. So, but like Janice said, work with and really trust the intuition. So the Pisces rising, right? When I see the fire signs, and even for the Scorpio and the Cancer risings, when you have a fire sign in the second house, if you're going to eat your meat, it should be cooked at least medium to medium well, right? Me as the Scorpio rising, Sagittarius there, the highest fire sign. I almost like my meat burnt. Like people are like, oh, you like? I'm like, yeah, cook my meat. I cannot take. I don't want no blood. I don't want no raw meat. I almost died. Second date, raw sushi. Like, no, I cannot. I have to have my food cooked, and it aligns with the chart. So that's what I love when you can see in the birth chart and in the astrology. And so back to this Leo sixth house, right? Check in with your heart chakra. Does it feel right? Okay. And that's something during this Mercury retrograde. But in our daily routines, we have to lean in to what lights us up, right? Think about doing something during Mercury retrograde that can be of service to humanity, whether it's a charity or something, even dedicating your time, right? During the Mercury grade, I may decide to offer like a raffle and do like a free chart reading. But that's good karma always, but good energy, right? And so these are things to think about. How can you be of service to others, or even kind of be of service to the people that are of service to you, right? A gardener, a housekeeper, a babysitter, a landscaper, a relative, sixth house, your aunt and uncle from your mother's side, quite literally. Just these are little tips that can always be a blessing and beneficial to others and yourself at the same time. So before I go to the Aries rising, just real quick, with the Cancer sun here, one thing in my research that could come up for Pisces risings, but in general reading, is it's summer, so people are getting ready to send their kids off, maybe to college, filling out the paperwork. This is an energy of acquiring or bringing or accepting debt for your children's education, right? Some people are sending their young kids to like private schools and this and that, and so, or when you're dealing with community or college or post, education, master's, PhD, with the sun and Jupiter in the fifth house, that's something that you as the parent may want to provide, that nurturing, caring, safety, and security for your kids to be like, hey, don't worry, you didn't get enough grant or Pell or this and that. Mom and dad will take out a loan. I'm not saying that's always the best thing, and sometimes I think, as we're learning more now, acquiring debt for college when there's no guarantees about jobs, it's not the smartest thing. You're almost better off going to a 2-year school first, then transferring if you go to a 4-year and saving a little bit of money and getting your degree. And then, also look at the child, because some kids, unless you're going to go be a doctor, lawyer, or a specific thing that needs that educational degree, like if you're just an English major or psychology major, you may not need college. You know what I mean? So you have to just be I think now more than ever, we should be very focused and intentional, because there's more information on the internet and there's also free stuff on the internet. You can learn how to become and do anything through technology nowadays that you don't need. And trust me, this is hard to say, right? For someone who loved and went to college and started my master's, although I didn't finish it, but, was going for my and all that stuff. Like my mother taught 35. I was a teacher. My mother taught 35. I'm all about education, but I think education needs to be also from elementary to college to postgrad needs to be reimagined. And so think about all these planets being retrograde. That's also some things at our fingertips to start to integrate. And there's a lot of AI schools popping up too. But you have to be mindful and careful with all that as well. So let's go to the Aries rising. And so with the Aries rising, this is going to have Saturn, Neptune, and the moon on the ascendant. So right away, the Leo Mercury will be in the 5th house. Okay, so that's speaking to your creativity, your heart chakra, quite literally, the children, right? It's Pisces and Aries, the first two we're looking at, the most rare and authentic signs. So with the Aries, though, Saturn, Neptune, and the moon on the ascendant, there's this energy for you guys at this time with 2 retrograde planets on your ascendant for Aries risings. Introspection is going to be your decoder and your map to navigate, to August 10th, the Mercury retrograde. And this is where you may need to, you're still on summer vacation. Most people, even for us out here, we start back the first week of August, but you've got to be very mindful of even preparing your kids for the school year, back to school shopping, especially your high schoolers and your early college students, 5th house, right? That's specifically more high school, college. Preparing them, back to school clothes. What do you need? This and that, all these things. And a lot of people just be mindful with all the corruption and scams. I don't know if you guys noticed, the scamming is increasing. So have a code word with your family and intimate friends that only you guys know, and share it verbally to one another. That it's not on technology, so that if there's anything weird ever happens, it's happening big overseas, but it's starting to happen here where people are faking your voice and being distressed or faking this and that. So, with all these retrograde things, and now I'm saying this because Uranus and Gemini, right? Trining the Pluto and Aquarius, you're going to see things that you've never thought of or never imagined before, literally to November 7th, being implemented or starting off at this time, or upgrades in technology, from travel to communication to technologies to so many different things. And this can also, hey, we're talking about Pluto, we're talking about Uranus, and we're talking about Gemini. So things could be trickster energy too. All right. So that's something, even as the Aries rising over the internet, Pluto 11th house, but also, the Gemini, Uranus 3rd house, and this whole, Leo Mercury 5th house. So preparing the kids, having a safe word, it could just be like, I don't know, clouds, or, your last name, whatever it is, right? But I think that's just something, because I just got like that intuitive hit, like, yes, make sure you tell people about this, you know what I mean? Because it's just smart, right? To me, and, excuse me for being Mr. Virgo here, but the way that I've lived my life, and some of it is from the trauma that I've really worked on and released as a child, but most human beings don't like to be surprised. And, less so if you had trauma in your childhood. And just the way that worked for me, as well as a wild Virgo stellium, not only am I prepared for 3 or 4 rainy days, I'm getting better at it, but and the astrology also helps me too, right? To not stress, fear, anxiety, none of that. But I see the future coming. So I don't want to be surprised, and I like to be prepared for all different types of potential outcomes and stuff like that. And that's just how my mind is built, and many people don't think that way. But with this energy and these charts and these alignments, you want to start to become a little bit more like Eric in that sense, because it will serve you. Because not only are the Mercury retrograde to the 10th, right after that, you're going to see these shifts in September and October, and then even before the eclipses, then Saturn back in Pisces, and September 1st and October 22nd, Neptune back in Pisces. And so that means there's something else to close out that chapter that you've got to focus on with your compassion, your empathy, grace, and mercy to yourself first, something with your healthy boundaries, something with your spiritual practices, and something with literally your imagination, creativity, and stop the victimhood mentality and lying to yourself. It's time to be real, get real, say no more games. I'm walking into this new reality, this new earth, and I am going to kind of, get sick and tired of my old practices and transmute them out of my life for once and for all. And that's what this dip back into Pisces, I think, is really about, especially with Saturn and Neptune, and these retrogrades kind of being the prelude to it all. There are no accidents when you see kind of like all these different type of alignments, right? Just like I've been telling you 6 months before the election, with the Aries North Node and that wrapping up and everything, right? That we need to become more free and sovereign, but to become the president and leaders of our own lives. Well, now you kind of see like, yeah, wow, Eric was right about that, right? And so Aries risings, that's some of what it is for you, but slowing down. And with the Mercury in the fifth house, you guys, retrograde in Leo, it also speaks to you don't need to say everything. Remember, Leo on the lower vibration could be very arrogant, stubborn. It can be very self-centered. And so sometimes, I've experienced some vitriol from Leo Mercury. It can be kind of like mean. The fixed signs have a little mean streak to them sometimes. And so with this being our words, our communications, check in with your heart before you say things. Because if you don't need to say it, and I say this to my boys, like, you didn't need to say that to your brother, right? Let's be more positive in our communication and our language. So Aries rising, be mindful of that, right? A fire ascendant is very action orientated, masculine, right? Even this Leo Mercury, that's a masculine fixed fire sign. So it can be very determined. Now this is great for Aries risings, fifth house, high school, college, but ancient history, past life karma. This is good. The fixed signs are the best for investigation and research. So Aries risings, this is where you may want to sign up and take an astrology class, or you may want to study to be a Reiki master, things like that. Even like, I want to learn the Akashic records, like have at it, Aries risings, because this is really a fascinating energy at this time. So let's go to the Taurus rising, right? When we move the dial, this puts the Mercury retrograde Leo fourth house. So for Taurus risings, always remember this. I joke about it, but it's a very powerful thing. The fourth house, childhood home, current adult home, retirement home, they are literally the regal kings and queens of their home. Okay, I live with a Taurus rising. I see it all the time. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is my castle. You know what I mean? So, Alana like loves that. And that's the one placement she's like, yeah, that's right. I am the queen of my castle. You know what I mean? And she's the only lady here, so it works, right? So, but just be mindful of that, because with the Mercury retrograde, this is tapping into also acknowledging, and maybe this is, some people get weirded out by this word, probably not you guys, but setting up that ancestral altar, honoring your mom, right? Grandma, abuela, whoever, the mother's lineage, right? Tapping into your ancestry. Maybe it's time to, they talk about spring cleaning. No, well, we need summer cleaning too, right? Getting rid of, if this is something you don't wear, or it hasn't looked at it in a long time and doesn't light up your heart anymore, sell it, give it away, right? What do they have? Facebook Marketplace, this place, that place. I mean, we can sell things now more than ever. It's amazing. There's whole businesses and lives that people, exchange and sell things and make a lot of money doing it. right? Some people are professional shoppers, right? They go to the thrift stores. I can't talk this morning, you guys. Sorry, thrift stores, and then resell things and do really well. My mother-in-law is really good at that. She's got a great eye, and we try to encourage her because she's got like antiques and trinkets from like off the chain. So for Taurus risings, you're also having this Uranus in your second house. So, and the Saturn, Neptune, and Moon in your 12th house. So there's a lot of things about your dreams during this Mercury retrograde. All rising signs should do it, but Taurus, make sure you're on your game for the dream book. Okay, be very intentional with that and be very mindful, because you may tap in if your mom or grandma have passed on. You literally can get a lot of messages from them at this time, especially with the moon in the 12th house, and it may even be a time where you're like, oh, summer, I'm planning a trip. Taurus risings may want to, go away, or just also increase your spiritual practice in your bedroom, or just in your dreams or subconscious and unconscious mind, things like that. With the Cancer stuff in the third house, though, the Jupiter and the Sun, this is also social media and the local community. So Taurus risings, there could be things around sharing your wisdom beliefs or your truth, or, learning things in your local community, or just, even maybe you're a teacher yourself and you're getting ready to go back to school and education, and, or even for your kids, buying the school supplies, stuff like that. But Leo Mercury retrograde, we always have to be mindful. If it doesn't align with your heart, then maybe you don't need to do it, but you don't need to say it. And don't fear Mercury retrogrades, right? This is just saying, if you have not already started something, do not initiate new contracts, signing new, right? This is not like, look, if you're forced to move and you've got to move out of your apartment, you guys, or anything like that, anybody watching, then yeah, you got to do it. Like, that's not a problem. But I wouldn't just say like, oh, you know what? During a Mercury retrograde, I want to buy a new home. No, Venus and Mercury retrogrades, that's not a time to start a new relationship or make a new major purchase or start, now remember, if we've already been working on, let's say you're like, oh, I'm getting these life insurance policies for my kids or grandkids, and I started it a while back, but now I'm just signing the papers because everything is coming through together now, totally fine, right? There's nothing that, is wrong with that and things like that. Obviously, the fourth house, we can deal with comforts and conveniences. Something happens in the home, you got to fix repairs or whatever. Yeah, get it done. But during the Mercury retrograde for Taurus risings, literally in the fourth house, there may be some things in the home that you've been wanting to get done or fixed, right? And you're like, oh, wow, you know what? I got to get new shades for the windows, or, oh, that's right, it is time. I do need new tires for the car. Do it. And also, remember with Venus, you guys, where's our friend Venus? Venus is still dancing in Gemini. Gemini is connected to travel, but also Venus and Gemini, fourth house. And also, we'll get to it for the next, yeah, for all the ascendants, really. But this goes back to the Pisces and the Aries rising. Just make sure you're keeping your car clean. When we keep our car clean, our money and our relationships have a better flow to it. That's 24/7, 365. So just be mindful of that. It brings more money to the car washes than the people that do the car details. But, sometimes like me and Alana, we just have to tell the kids, go clean the car. But it's important because, especially even the interior, but the car in general, that is good, right? It's a feng shui philosophy, also very strong with the Vedic, but it's just good energy. You know what I mean? You want to, when you keep that car clean, remember Venus vehicles, it helps with your relationships, and Venus money. So keeping that car clean, okay? Gemini risings, any questions so far with any of the ascendants, or we're good? With the Gemini rising, Uranus and Venus on the ascendant, I mean, you may like, Gemini risings, oof, until 2034, but even now to November 7th, you may be like, oh, I'm cutting off my hair. I want a piercing, a tattoo. With Uranus and Venus there, oh my gosh, anything. You may be like, oh, I hate my clothes. I need a whole new wardrobe. Gemini risings, you're not gonna be the same person. I can tell you, right? Taurus risings just went through it. I have a whole new wife since 2018. This 7-year itch, the midlife crisis, Uranus is always going to be extremely intense when it's on the first seventh house axis. The angular house is 410. And then also when it is the opposition, you're going to go through, and that's the midlife crisis. You're going to go through, and that's what made me get so sick with the valley fever, and then pushed me to get a lot back on alignment to become, right, the astrologer. It was like, no knucklehead, no sports radio, no teaching, no this, no that. You are getting into this, the metaphysics. And unfortunately, I had to get really sick to do it, but I got here, right? Finally, but it's that serious. So Gemini risings, the Mercury retrogrades in your third house, right? The Leo. So you kind of remember it's not opposing the Aquarius, Pluto, nowhere near by degree, and that's still retrograde at 2 degrees. But you're really Gemini risings, there could be some things around education or classes or courses, travel, things in the local community. You have to be mindful though too, some things can come up with like a neighbor. Sometimes I think astrologers and just people forget, it's very important, the third house, just in terms of your neighbors. So there'll be certain things that you can see in your local community, 50 miles or closer to home, your transportation. But Leo Mercury retrograde, that's letting you know, hey, just make sure you're checking the oil in your car, right? Make sure you got the Freon and just, it's not, the fluids and everything. So you're good with that. Because sometimes Mercury retrograde, it doesn't just affect our technologies. Sometimes it can affect how we are transporting and traveling, because that's what Mercury is. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Mercury is also how we process things, right? There's the door, there's the tree, there's the plant. With Mercury, we're always analyzing and assessing, right? It is our data processor. It's the lower mind. So when you have it in the third house, that's very much with your neighbors, what you're communicating, but what you're noticing and seeing, Also, one thing I would say, remember, that's social media. So just in general, Gemini risings, you want to show up, sharing from your heart chakra over social media, or if you're doing anything career-wise in sales, advertising, or marketing as well, okay? The Cancer risings, right? So that gives us back to the...
Hey, Eric,
Yes, go ahead.
before you move on to the Cancer rising,
Yeah.
so I wanted to say something. I wanted to share it for educational purposes.
Mhm.
Right before our coffee talk started, I looked out the window and the neighbors above us, she was throwing out her partner's bags. So I guess he was getting put out.
Wow.
So when you brought that up,
Yeah.
that kind of brought a light bulb to me, like, oh my, because I'm standing here like, what am I witnessing right now?
Yeah. Let me tell you, it's, and then, they probably, you may not even recognize, but when Mars was in Leo, you may have even heard some rumblings from them and not even paid attention to it. And then now, right, it's come to fruition as we are in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde Leo, third house, your neighbors. So, yeah, it's no joke. So thank you for sharing that. That's like really wild. But those are real life examples.
And then another thing, you did bring up travel. So I thought travel wasn't the best thing to do during a Mercury retrograde.
I'm saying that it's because of the Pluto ninth house. I would say I don't subscribe to the like, oh, like you're stuck, you can't do anything or go anywhere. Right? Because some people already have travel plans that they initiated a while ago. Right? So the one thing that I would say to counteract that, Mercury retrograde Leo, right? Because millions of people get on planes and nothing happens.
Yeah.
I would be more concerned, Gemini rising, in my travel in my local community.
Okay.
Pluto Aquarius ninth house, you want to go somewhere 50 miles or further from home, you're getting on a flight or, even whatever, like have at it. You know what I mean? So, I don't, to me, I like to look, I'm very positive and optimistic, but I also, the astrology is going to give us knowledge, and then you then turn that into the understanding and wisdom into your own personal life. But it's always faith over fear. And to me, a Mercury retrograde is not something to fear. But listen, then that means I would become more of the defensive driver. Gemini rising, Mercury, Leo, third house, right? Don't hit extra hard on the horn because some people get crazy and they want to follow you.
And I noticed for me, when Mercury goes retrograde, it's more so delays.
Yes,
So I
that's
have to leave a lot earlier.
Yes, that's pay attention to the clock. If you normally it takes you 10 minutes to get somewhere, well, then I would leave, I would say leave space for it to be 20 minutes. That's where, things because you can have street lights go out, right? So that's what I'm saying. It gets more to the local travel. I wouldn't have an issue with like getting on a plane and far away travel. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Cancer rising, we're getting to that, Leo, fruits, vegetables, eating that second house, right? Obviously, you got the Saturn, Neptune in the 10th house, and this is where I think Cancer risings need to, know your worth. And maybe it's time where you didn't speak up before and you need to go ask for that promotion or raise at work, or, show up differently in public for your legacy, or maybe initiating, maybe if you need to initiate some boundaries and be more realistic about the relationship with your father, or things like that. So, but having the Mercury in the second house, this is also kind of like the summer cleaning of family stuff. Maybe you need to go through the family books as you're getting ready to go back into, because like I think energetically we all kind of feel like September is like the new year, right? Kind of back to school. I mean, even if we're adults, and even if you don't have kids, it's kind of like you're like, oh, September's here, fall's here. It's like kind of like back to like normalcy, because summer doesn't ever really feel normal, right? Because people are kind of like switching their schedules or traveling or vacations, and and even if you're not a parent, but maybe you are around kids or a grandparent, September, everybody's kind of like getting back to the regular routine. So Mercury retrograde for Cancer risings, Leo second house, this is where what? Second house, your values, savings, self-worth, how you earn money, right? Food, speech. So this is where, till August 10th, maybe you're like, what? Not only are we going to kind of like eat more fruit, maybe, family reunion, big for Cancer risings. There could be some family reunions coming up, right? But also, this is where you just want to assess, like, okay, we're kind of like checking the books, looking at where we're at. You know what? I thought we could afford this August vacation. Maybe we can't go to Hawaii. Maybe let's just do a trip that's more, local or in the States or whatever, you know what I mean? But Mercury, Leo, second house, you're kind of looking at the finances and also kind of just checking in with the family. Are you allowing the kids to eat extra junky in the summer? Right? Pay attention to that, Cancer risings. Like maybe yourself, your kids, and then also Mercury, Leo, your throat chakra is activated, right? So be very mindful of your communications from your heart, right? This is where we don't want to get in the lower vibrations, Cancer risings, of like how we're communicating or talking, but also, like share your spotlight. Like, listen, nobody is, the two most pure signs are Cancer and Leo, right? In the Vedic, they call them the Sattvic signs, right? They're so pure, but whether it's Sun in Leo or Mercury in Leo, right? And this is like a Cancer Sun and a Leo Mercury. There's this energy at this time where we want to be, because nobody's really more authentic than Leo and Aquarius. They are, and then you could probably throw in Gemini. They are unapologetic, authentically them. Okay? And not really, you could kiss rocks. You don't like it, okay. You know what I mean? They're not asking your opinion, And so with Mercury and Leo in the second house, you just want to make sure you're trying to share the spotlight and be generous, even with the family. This is where sometimes summertime we see family members that we don't normally see. It can be summer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and sometimes that can bring up some stuff for people, right? So Cancer risings, just be mindful to try to be, be nice, be generous, okay? And try to be very activate the creativity. You know what I mean? Like do something creative. Maybe you have a family, because remember, Leo is always the entertainer and the politician. So maybe the politician is like at the family cookout or reunion. You're like, hey, let's not get into talking about no politics. We know, cousin Ray, he went down the rabbit hole and he voted for Trump, and everybody else, just whatever it is, like it's okay, right? But just like maybe that's where the Cancer rising is just like, hey, let's just, this is our safety zone, let's have a good family time, because you guys know sometimes getting with the family members, the cousins and the aunts and this and that, some things come up that are retrograde back from Leo when we were children. Because a lot of and I'm sorry, I should have said this for all of the signs, but when Mercury is retrograde in Leo, things can come up from your childhood. So some of those things you may need to transmute out, release, let go, and forgive, right? Remember, it's kind of trining the Chiron and Aries, right? If there's any wounding or hurt feelings or this and that, we can kind of transmute that out, okay? So just be mindful of that. So Leo risings, it's on your ascendant, Mercury retrograde, right? So with that Saturn, Neptune, and the Moon in the ninth house, Leo risings, it may be something around deciding to go back to school, go on a vacation, or even writing a book. And I think the Saturn, Neptune would be supportive for you, Leo risings, to do so. And with Mercury on your ascendant, you're going to feel like the messenger. It's in its planetary joy there. Everybody's going to be coming up to you, Leo risings. They do anyway, right? Let's be honest. So Leo risings, they're going to want to talk to you. You're going to be out at the beach, the park, the pool. Everybody, oh, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You're that, shine bright like a diamond. You are that glowing light. But it's also an energy that it doesn't come natural to you, fire and air signs. Leo risings, take time to be a little bit more introspective, right? Take that pause and be like, you know what? Wow, I just turned 47. I just turned 61. Maybe I should. I think I'm ready to write a book now. Maybe I just turned 56 or 44, and I'm ready to write a book, ninth house. Those are those ages. That's why I mentioned those numbers. But, with Mercury retrograde on the ascendant, this is also about kind of clearing out your head, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing well with my flossing. I'm going to order some Sabale Pure Dentafloss. You know what I mean? You're like, and you're going to get back to I'm not missing any days. Because remember the teeth, first, second house, upper, lower teeth. You're going to get back to, a good dental hygiene and flossing, right? Sun gazing, right? Oh, I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and catch the sunrise. So Leo risings, just think about these things. And, Mercury, you're going to be just communicating like crazy, and everyone's going to be coming up to you, Leo rising. These 3 weeks, it's going to be an overload for you. Not necessarily negative, but just information. Like, the Mercury retrograde for the Leo rising, it's like, Did you hear this? Did you hear that? And a lot of it can turn out to be positive, especially if you're healing childhood wounds, especially if you decide to start writing, especially if you're being social and making new friends and new connections. This is a really actually a great time, especially because you have Venus and Uranus in your 11th house over the internet, groups and organizations. So you could be the socialite that you already are, Leo risings, and really, jump into that in a very powerful way. So the Virgo risings, Mercury retrograde in your 12th house, adios mijo. Listen, this is definitely where if you've never done it before, please start a dream book. You can email me, Virgo Risings, if you need any questions, eric@BigEAstrology.com. I got a whole routine and system. But, keeping a dream book, you guys, I did it years ago. And I'm talking like years ago. And so funny that I never imagined that when I did it back then, that it would be part of my business and implemented into my own programs to work with the collective and to help people. Like I don't even know if somebody told me to start doing, I can't even remember, but it was like, I remembered, like doing that dream book. It was powerful back then and it's powerful now, and I think somewhere I may still have them saved, but this was the time when I I would dream about, girlfriends when I was dating them. I dreamt about Alana before I met her. I dreamt about 9/11 2 years before it happened. So when you've got any, I'm gonna say any, but when you have a Venus, a Neptune, a Mercury, a Uranus, a Pluto, in in the 12th house, like Virgo rising does with the Mercury, there can be Pluto Aquarius 6th house. There can be a lot of dreams. Even you always look at the opposite house, you guys. Can be a lot of dreams about you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do this parasite cleanse. Oh, I've got to. Oh, it could be a tribe member. Oh, I got to reach out to Janice and ask her about what parasite cleanses she's done. I remember she shared it and talked about it with Eric, and I want to find that out. Like Mercury, 12th house, you may also tap in to some of the pains of the children, right? Sad at Texas, in Gaza and Ukraine, you may, in the Congo, you may really get messages. And it doesn't have to be just from children. It could be from family members. It could be from anybody. But also remember, when Mercury's in the 12th house, you are very indirectly direct. You may be telling a lot of people things in these 3 weeks and they don't listen to you, and then it plays out and comes to fruition. So Virgo risings, you're going to be getting a lot of messages and downloads in your dreams, or just even in your quiet time in your bedroom. So this would be a good time too to increase, Virgo risings, your spiritual and meditation practices. Obviously, the South Node is on your ascendant, North Node in the 7th house. So you're going to be more focused on your partners, business partnerships, the other half. But whenever we have the South Node, whether it's in transit or natally in your birth chart, it's really speaking, for you to focus on your self-love. Who am I? You've got to contemplate, and, obviously for this time, this transit, it's focusing on the Virgo risings. But, in your natal chart, if you have it, it's like in this life, you have got to kind of have a real spiritual practice and relationship with yourself. Introspection is, even in an air or fire sign, introspection has got to be, it's weird because you would say the North Node, Rahu, your North Star, but the South Node on the ascendant, more so than any place, it's almost like that's got to become your North Star, because you've got to master the who am I, the self-love. On the North Node, you're learning it. North Node on the ascendant, you've got to learn the self-love. And the South Node, you've got to have it as your foundational base, so that as you seek to obtain business partners and seek to obtain a marriage or a partner, the North Node is very consuming. You're gonna be the serial monogamous in relationships, right? Even during this transit, Virgo risings, right? You're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, you may be speed dating. So the South Node is kind of like in transit or, natally in the first house. It's like that needs to be your foundation, the spiritual practice, the introspection, the who am I, okay? Especially the first 30 years. And where some people don't ever try to find out who they are, these people with the South Node on the ascendant, or if you go through it in a transit, that's got to be your main vehicle, okay? Now, our Libra risings, okay? So with the Libra rising, Leo Mercury is in the 11th house, right, of the internet groups, hopes, dreams, and wishes. So remember, this is your social network too, older siblings. So there could be some conversations coming up with your older siblings, Libra risings. Obviously, you're dealing with the Uranus, Gemini in the 9th house. So that could get you, and the Venus, this is totally art history. Maybe kind of revisiting things that your dad taught you, maybe going on a trip, right? Could be like I'm sensing it could be like also something where you're like, I want to start a blog. Doesn't have to just be like writing a book. But with Leo Mercury for Libra risings, Leo Mercury in the 11th house, you're really going to be tapped in to groups and organizations. Maybe you want to start a nonprofit, right? Maybe you're like, oh, wow, I heard about Eric's new community. I want to become a tribe member, right? Libra risings. You could also start taking or teaching classes over the internet, right? While the Mercury's in retrograde, maybe it's the time when you write or develop your program that you want to launch in between the retrograde and the eclipses. So between August 11th and let's say the 24th. I feel like that first eclipse is the 25th or 26th, but I'm sorry, I just don't know the date right now. But, it's towards the end of August, that Pisces full moon. So, that's something that could come up with Leo, Mercury retrograde Leo in the 11th house. You could have a heartfelt conversation with an aunt and uncle from your dad's side. The kids have been nagging you. They're like, can I get a bearded dragon or an iguana or, some weird, snake? Because remember, the 11th house, wild exotic animals, right? And it's 6 houses from the 6th, so it's another house we can look at for health. But also, it's a weird double entendre. It can tell you the health. I just thought about this. Not only can it tell you the health of your older sibling, it could tell you the health of a stepchild if you have one, or of your father's siblings. You can see that as well. So the 11th house is fascinating. Remember always houses 3, 6, 10, and 11 develop and get better over time. So because this is your social network, you got to go through your phone. Delete some of those old contacts, right, that you never talk to anymore, and just you see them in your phone, and it may irritate you if you see it. I never delete people out of my phone, but there's some people I need to maybe, even though I'm not a Libra rising, but there's some people I need to go to the phone and be like, you know what, I just need to get this out of the phone and just delete it. Like, I'm not talking to them anymore. You know what I mean? And that's okay. It's actually, I think it's good spiritual hygiene too. Because, we can get triggered. You can get triggered if you had a bad breakup with a partner or a spouse or an old friend, 30, 40 years ago, great old friend. And then you just see, their phone and contact in your phone, and you just like, we don't talk anymore. What's the point? So those are things that Libra risings may need to think about, but definitely connecting with the social network. Right? Are any of you guys Libra risings by any chance? Do we have any Libra risings here? I don't think so, right? I can't remember, but that's something to really just be mindful of. And then Pluto fifth house, some different things with your kids. And it could be around health or really getting them into technology, coding, robotics. Maybe encouraging your kids as they're going into high school. Don't you want to take a STEM class or, in science or engineering, things like that. Okay. So Scorpio rising. Okay. With Scorpio rising, the Leo retrograde Mercury is in the 10th house of your public image, career, the government, the authorities in your life. The midheaven could be anywhere from 8 to 12, mainly, most common, 9, 10, 11. So, but the 10th house is always going to be reputation, dad, government, authorities, public image, legacy, workplace and work environment, relationship with dad. Ninth house is dad's teaching. We'll get there next. But so Mercury, Leo, hey, dad, I love you. Let's make this relationship better. You weren't always there for me. Da da da. If dad's passed away, maybe you could write a letter to dad. But Scorpio risings, this is also how you are showing up in public for your work, your career, right? Do you need to go back in and reestablish or heal some relationships? Scorpio risings tend to be very, remember Aries, sixth house, Saturn, Neptune, Moon there. They may not always intend to, but they can be very assertive and aggressive and initiating at work. So they may step on people's toes, and it's not always intentional. Remember, Aries doesn't do anything intentionally like that. Aries, you're just in Aries' way. They may knock you over, but they didn't mean to. It's not personal with Aries, you know what I mean? Because Aries don't start none, right? Aries is they're right after Cancer and Leo. Aries is probably the third most pure sign. Maybe I should do like a top 5 pure signs, but Aries is very pure. You know what I mean? Because they're just here to touch and experience life. So with the Scorpio rising, this Mercury Leo here, sometimes you may have stepped on your boss's toes. So Mercury retrograde, you got to kind of maybe it's an apology or just reestablishing and checking in the workplace. But also you want to show up and maybe there's a message you need to share in public or at work. Okay. And remember, you're dealing with the Uranus Scorpio risings in Gemini 8th house with Venus. This may be, right? This is for me. Maybe it's time for this retrograde for me to get more in touch with the herbs and crystals, not just to talk about them, but to actually learn more about them, gain more wisdom, but also use them more in meditations, right? Use the herbal tea and crystals when I'm doing my spiritual practice or meditating, right? Keeping the crystals with me in my pocket or taking them when I go outside to the tree. And these are all Scorpio risings, but remember Uranus, Venus at this time during this Mercury retrograde, there could be a lot of downloads you're receiving, Scorpio risings, a lot of information, right? The 8th house is literally, so this is deep. Think about this. The 8th house is literally, because the Venus is kind of, let's check by degree. The Venus is actually in the sextile to the Mercury, okay? So the Mercury retrograde is sextile to Venus. So this is where you could get Scorpio risings, you can get a vision or a download of your father, right? So I may have dreams about my father and my father's passing. I may get information. So you see how that could work, right, for Scorpio rising. So, just try to, lead with your heart out in public. Maybe it's, activating some different things about your workplace or work environment. I need to reorganize my work desk, right? It's getting a little messy, and things like that. So, that's, could be very beneficial for the Scorpio risings. And obviously you could definitely focus on travel or publishing or continuing education or even mentorship with Jupiter and the Sun here at this time. So Sag risings. I know we got some Sag risings, right? I think we have some Sag risings here, and I know we got Pisces. So the Sag rising, um, you're dealing with the Mercury retrograde in your ninth house. So this is where you may literally remember something your father taught you growing up. And you're like, oh my God, Dad used to always say that. And then it plays out. Oh, that's right, Dad taught me this, right? Or you have a guru. And oh, guess what? You can literally, maybe you meet a guru or shaman. Or Sag Risings, you know how you are. Maybe you decide to go through your initiation and become a shaman yourself, right? It's not something that you would say, oh, should I start this during this time? But it's something that maybe you're like investigating and finding who you want to study with, who you want to learn from. Maybe your guru, Sag Risings, maybe you want to learn astrology or numerology. Oh, maybe, oh, I'm going to take an astronumerology class with Lloyd or with Jazz Aphrodite, or you know what I mean? Like you could totally Sag risings, get but because it's Leo Mercury ninth house, maybe it's to edit the book, rewrite a book, or to start something that planning, right? Because sometimes you don't want to maybe start the thing, but maybe you're setting up to implement and to begin something, so that when August 11th hits, or let's say the shadow period's done. And I think the shadow period ends, maybe it's right before the Leo new moon, so maybe it's the 24th or 25th. I'm not Leo new moon, sorry, Virgo solar eclipse. So, and isn't that fascinating? So after the Mercury retrograde, when we're out of the shadow period, boom, we get hit with the Pisces lunar eclipse. So that's why I'm saying that this energy with all these retrograde planets, we've got to focus on our health and nutrition. We've got to focus even on your heart health. So for all you signs, remember going for that daily morning or evening walk, Leo, Mercury, transportation, maybe bring that back up if you used to do it, right? Some people shared that last night, but like get back to it, right? Even in this heat, I got to get back to trying to walk 30 minutes every day. So I focus more on lifting the weights. Remember, I told you guys, even, especially even some of you younger folks, once you get past 35, and especially for the women, you want to squat at least 3 to 4 days a week. You got to keep your core strong, because as we get older, the health issues can come around, things around the lower back, hips and thighs. And the stronger you keep your core, if you can, and you don't have to go crazy. That's why, like for me, it's part like survival because I have to. After the whole coma experience, I can't like max out and lift like super heavy weights. So I do the maintenance where I literally lift weights 6 to 7 days. I'm doing a little something every day, lesser weights, more repetition, so that it's like I don't lose it. It just always is kind of staying good. You know what I mean? So, Sag risings. What's this? Mercury Leo, ninth house, your hips and thighs. Go for the walk, right? Maybe you're not going 50 miles further away from home, but you could just walk for 50 minutes or, just walk for 30 minutes. Okay. So that can be very beneficial. You're dealing with the Uranus and Gemini in your seventh house and the Venus. So maybe during the Mercury retrograde, an ex tries to come back in the picture, literally for your Sag risings, or an unexpected new relationship. But don't, just because you meet the eye candy doesn't mean you jump in right away. Let that retrograde marinate. Let the eclipse. I'd be like, revisit this new person and see if there's still somebody you want to like commit to. I don't know, September 15th. like, you know what? Oh wait, let me just check to see if that was somebody for the chat.
I think we're getting Gail's feedback. I don't know if any.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Oh, okay. No, I wasn't sure though. I'm sorry because I just was checking with the text. But yeah, so just be mindful of that Sag risings, okay? And you got that Cancer in eighth house, Sun and Jupiter. If you're a Sag rising and you are in a relationship relationship or married, your partner's resources can, this whole year, just like they can receive an inheritance or just financial promotion or because remember, eighth house is sudden events, but it also could be a sudden windfall of money. It could be an old tax return because it's Jupiter. Okay. So it's going to be beneficial, or maybe you just become like a freaking, doula, deaf doula, midwife, an herbalist, a crystal guru, or you like become a Sag rising, become like a master of like, the esoteric occult knowledge, something. So, or maybe you just start researching and then teaching about it. So this Leo, retrograde, with the Mercury here, there can be a lot of things, but you may also, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, it was so cool for me. And this was like years ago. I reconnected to my middle school principal on Facebook. I was just like, oh my God. I was so happy. One, they were still alive, but two, I was like, oh my God. Like, and it was so crazy. And I was just like, that's something Sag risings could experience, right? Because this is what teacher, preacher, professors, mentors, right? Guru, shaman. So Mercury retrograde, you could literally, I don't know if you guys get in any of your high school or college or, this is like middle school, but like Facebook groups and you see old classmates and stuff like that's something that could happen for Sag risings, okay? Now,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes, please, yeah.
Is there any significance, because I just realized that I'm having my Mercury return. My Mercury was in Leo at birth.
Okay.
Is there any significance about it being retrograde now, even with Sag rising?
I think, what's your ascendant again?
I am a Sag rising.
Oh, you are? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, anytime we have a planet come back to its birth spot, it's sort of like a little welcome home thing. And I've been thinking about this lately, because people say, oh, return. But what does that really mean in a deeper sense? Like, I'm thinking that we've got to, just like we talk to our pets, our plants, the trees and nature, we need to also start to kind of talk to our planets and our alignments. Right? And so when you do that, not only are you empowering yourself, but it's like you're acknowledging the vibration and frequency that it is energetically sending to you. And so when you become the Jedi, right? The DJEDI, and you kind of master, remember Anjani said that, I love that, the Shushumanati. And it's like you're mastering the planets from Saturn to Sun are aligned with the chakras, and you're mastering your inner light and having that inner wisdom and knowledge. Yeah, Leo Mercury, you're coming back home to how you process and communicate. And so with the being retrograde, and it's not retrograde natally?
No, it's not.
Okay, so now it's like maybe it's exactly what I said. Well, now it's retrograde. It's like, you know what? I do feel at home with my thoughts and my mind and my processing. And thank you, Mercury. Thank you, Leo Mercury. I love how I communicate from my heart. I love how I communicate, and I'm generous and bold and bright. My words are like bombastic and colorful. Acknowledge that, integrate that, honor that. And I think that that's actually, you're giving me some ideas right now. I think that's going to be a new thing that I'm going to start to do myself, and a new philosophy, a new ideology, because that can be very powerful. If we can talk to the plants and trees, well, we need to acknowledge when we have these returns. Just like, and I talk about this in my transformational, astrological life transformational program. With these planets, you're putting on new clothes, right? What does it mean to have Leo and Mercury, right? You need to think and communicate from your heart, right? You don't want to be stubborn and arrogant with your words and thoughts. You want to be generous. You want to share the spotlight. You want to encourage the kids, encourage your husband. Like you want to be, Leo women, even though you're a Cancer sun sign, right? Leo women, they like to dress their partners up, I had a Leo girlfriend. She's like, oh, I want to buy you that. I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? So Leo Mercury, yeah, you want to share the spotlight, be generous, and shine that light on others too. But I think that's a real good process. When these planets return home to our natal position, just give a little thanks, talk to the planet and connect. So Capricorn risings, was that a good answer for you?
It's perfect, as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a good answer for me. I was like, whoa, okay, I just got some new. Oh Lord, my brain is going right now, you guys. But some new thoughts and new ideas. So Capricorn rising, right? So that means Leo 8th house. So Mercury retrograde 8th house. Ooh, Cap risings. So you got the Pluto in your 2nd house. So that may really inspire you to do the parasite cleanse and transform how you eat, how you speak. You've got a little decoder going on. Mercury, Leo, retrograde 8th house. Yeah, there could be some conversations that you need to have in your marriage, Capricorn risings. There may be some things you need to revisit in terms of your taxes, how you're taking care of them, right? This may be, you're like, you know what? I'm going to start the research. I want to go down the rabbit hole. Well, I don't know what Eric means when he talks about beyond the ice wall. What does it mean when he talks about chakras? This is where you want to start to Mercury, Leo, retrograde 8th house. Research, learn about the herbs and crystals. Learn about astrology, gematria, numerology. Learn about ancient history, the secret societies, right? Learn about skull and bones and Freemasons. Capricorn risings and Capricorn and Scorpio, whether it's sun, moon, or rising, those are the 2 signs. They're not scared of nothing. They're like, they will go through the shadow work, through the darkness. They are, Scorpio and Capricorn are 2 of the most powerful signs. And some of that power, I think, comes from its feminine energy because they're willing to do the shadow work because they're what? They're more introspective. So with Leo, Mercury, 8th house, they can explore so many things. But maybe there's a conversation that needs to be had in your marriage. Maybe with your tax person. Maybe get a new tax person. Maybe you're like, you know what? I'm getting messages from the other side. My friends or my sister's ex-husband's coming through to me, right? You can literally, the messenger, Mercury, remember, 8th house. Mercury can go to Pluto, Hades, the underworld, but can go to the sun and moon, right? Considered like the gods, and they can go anywhere. Mercury is neither feminine or masculine as a planet. It takes on the energy of the sign. So it's masculine in air and fire. It's feminine in earth and water, more intuitive, more receptive. Does that make sense? So that can be, what's going on. Aquarius risings. I guess, yeah, we finally hit the end of the road. I'm a little late on getting to the other chart, but that's okay. Aquarius risings, this is in your 7th house, right? So with Pluto on the ascendant, yeah, shadow work is your life story to 2044. You're going to be so magnetic and powerful, and you'll have people attracted to you and people jealous of you. And it's such a mixed bag when Pluto's on the ascendant. I see it. My kids have it. And it's a lot. But you are very focused on the secrets, the mysteries of the world. I mean, I got some like little powerful Pluto ascendant, like they want to know about everything. So with Aquarius risings, that transit, and then now Mercury retrograde, and then Uranus in your 5th house and Venus, this is very relational. This is an energy where people from your past, you could be in a committed relationship or marriage or in a business partnership, but some things can come up to try to disrupt it or some things can come up that you've got to kind of address and transmute, right? This is the marketplace. This is where you barter and trade and sell. Leo, the king doesn't like being there. The sun doesn't like being there. But the king, Leo Mercury, it's like, wait a minute, it's what I said. I'm not negotiating with you. Well, now with the Mercury retrograde, Aquarius risings, this is where you're like, you know what, you may need to finesse things a little bit. You got to go to the marketplace and be like, how much are those mangoes? Oof, okay. Well, can I just what if I get the mangoes and the blueberries? Maybe you give me a little break? Maybe you try to finesse it a little, but sometimes you may have to take that L, and you got to be okay with that. Okay? Because the king in the market, that's why the sun doesn't do so well in Libra or in the seventh house, right? Seventh house descendant, it's where the sun is setting. Does that make sense? So that's why when the sun's in the fourth house, sometimes the father's not in the person's life, because that's midnight. You don't see the sun at midnight. So when it's setting in the seventh house, it doesn't want to be in a marketplace with the common people. The king shouldn't negotiate with anybody, right? So Leo Mercury, the king thought, the king's speech, right? This is where, this is going to be heavy with the courthouse, negotiations, contracts, right? You may want to do some more stretching. Things can come up with the fallopian tubes, kidneys, lower back pain, upper buttocks, right? Aquarius risings. Everything's about changing and focusing on your health too. Even at Pisces North Node, second house, Virgo South Node, eighth house. So Aquarius risings, be very intentional and mindful with Mercury retrograde that you have an opportunity to improve, right? To say the things that have not been said in the relationship, in the marriage, in the business partnership, to go back over your paperwork. How many months I got or years on my car payment? Oh, you could remodel your kitchen. So remember, sometimes the retrograde is where you can kind of redo things too, right? So sometimes it could just be cleaning out the cabinets, but maybe you're like, oh, you know what? I want to recycle, right? Aquarius rising, recycle my what do you call them? Your frying pan, your Tupperware, and all the other stuff, like the frying pan, your plates, your fork. These forks are old and dingy and beat up. Remember, seventh house is your kitchen. Aquarius rising, you're talking to your husband or your wife, like, I think we need some new plates, honey. These plates are looking rough. I put them in the dishwasher every day. They're not getting, they're not looking shiny anymore. So just, I like to give you real life practical things because it can benefit you, but it can really happen. So always remember, but there could be a pull where somebody offers you a contract. You could be the Aquarius rising that's the actor or actress, right? And maybe something comes up where you get an opportunity to, get back into doing something creative. Always remember Leo, Mercury, politician, entertainer. There's something creative that you do that maybe you need to bring back up again or reanalyze, reassess, or do over, retry. Maybe, even for Chantel Sag rising, maybe is start, when you're doing your videos for Instagram in the garden, maybe you start doing a little singing, a little something, or come up with like a little poem about your planting, the sweet potato yams, a little poem, and you record that, and then that's the IG post, and you're like, oh my God, this thing goes viral, right? Because it's just, that little extra thing of creativity, right? Leo, from your heart chakra, and that you share. So, that's just like a real life living example that came to my head, but, that can be actually very beneficial. Okay. So Aquarius risings, definitely relationships, with Uranus and Venus in your fifth house down here, like, you could just suddenly meet somebody, You know what I mean? But also we could speculative gains. It could suddenly start a bit. Maybe you start making numerology, astrology jewelry. You got Pluto in your ascendant. You could do anything. Mercury in your seventh house. Like, I mean, anything can happen. So Aquarius risings are just, yeah, definitely Aquarius rising should be always reaching out for birth charts. So 2044, you have always got to check in with that Pluto in the ascendant. It's going to be really a huge transformation in your life, especially even with this 7 years to 2034 with Uranus now in your fifth house. That's your kids. That's your heart chakra, your creativity, your hobbies, your dating, your romance, your fun sex. If you're married or even if you're, out there single is Aquarius rising. So there's going to be a lot of shifts and changes. So any other questions overall with the Mercury retrograde for all signs and just in general, just be mindful, neighbors, transportation, things with your siblings can come up. Mercury is the siblings. Okay. It's going to be more associated more with your sisters. Mars is the brothers. Mercury is the sisters. But this is also going to be about your laughter. Mercury in Leo loves to laugh, right? Chantel's got a big, bold laugh. Mercury in Leo, it's like, have some joy, smile, laugh. Maybe you go through Hulu and Netflix and be like, oh, I want to watch some of these comedy specials, like allow yourself, because right now, we don't need to pay attention to all these distractions. We need to bring in, Leo, more heart-based, more creativity, but more joy and gratitude. So take an opportunity with this Mercury retrograde to bring more joy, play, creativity in your life. If we could do something each day, even a little 1 minute, 5 minute creative, and maybe you don't share it. Maybe you just make a video and just keep it for yourself. Show it to your kids and your husband. Maybe you make a song and share it in your voice memo or a poem, you know what I mean? Or just share it in our tribe community. But, try while Mercury is retrograde for these 3 weeks, try to do something that is reflecting from your heart chakra, because it's going to bring you that joy. It's going to reflect back to God's source creator. It's honoring God, and it's also helping you to walk into being more authentic and heart-based. Remember the Human Design Prophecy 2027, we're leaving the solar plexus, and that's going to get activated and healed, and then we enter into the heart chakra as a collective. And a lot of the planetary alignments and everything kind of lines up. There's going to be a huge shift between 27 and 32. And hopefully it's going to be, and it will be, for the better. You know what I mean? So really just walk into that. But if we can practice, as you know, Fortune 500 and CEO companies are doing now, remember I told you, they're actually integrating 30 minutes of play or joy a day to make their workers more productive. This is what the science and the studies show. So it's like, hey, let's do it. Different ways to activate our brain and our heart, and to be, out of the subconscious programming, to be more present and conscious in the now. Leo is, right, the I am, right? Leo and Aries, like that fire. So speak it from your heart and just say hey, I love you, Eric. I love you, Chantal. I love you, Gail. I love you, Janice. I love you, Gigi. I love you, Quintella, right? I love you, Stephen. I love you, Michael, Murray, everybody watching the replay. Say it to yourself out loud. Try doing that every day for the 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde, and everybody watching on the replay and on YouTube or whoever. Try doing that. Honor your heart, claim that you are enough and that you're worthy, and that you, Leo, heart, that you love yourself. Think about how often we don't say that to ourselves. Isn't it? It's almost like a sin, right? We don't honor ourselves enough, you guys. So let's do that. Make that a practice. I think it'll be a beautiful one. So Mercury retrograde, I bid you adieu. I hope you have a good time and fun. And, I think it's going to be positive. With all these other planets retrograde, I really think honoring the writing and the introspection and the love and the joy is going to help us to navigate this in a better way. And when you get frustrated and annoyed with the technology, just laugh at it. right? That's very Leo. Just be like, this is entertaining. Like, oh, okay, Mercury, I see how naughty again. Okay, you want to play that game? Thank you. Okay, I feel you. I love you, Mercury retrograde. I love you, Mercury Leo. You know what I mean? Try doing something different, because why do I say that? This is the first Mercury retrograde in our lifetimes, you guys, with Pluto in Aquarius. No one living has experienced this. Pluto in Aquarius, transformation, transmutation. We've got to release and do something different. Power, control, sex, shadow, and Uranus and Gemini. We've got to be innovative with our communications, right? The ruler of Mercury, and the South Node, the other ruler in Virgo. Introspection. So that's why I just laid all that out for you, and now connecting it all together, right? We have got to do this Mercury retrograde differently. Talk to Mercury, honor it, say thank you, honor yourself, love, introspection, do something creative, joy, play, right? Say the words each day, I love you, and put in your name. And with Uranus and Gemini, expect the unexpected. Technology-wise, it may be different things that you've never experienced. And that's also why I say be prepared, because we could literally have the internet turned off or have a blackout, or, everything goes, dark. Could be just America. Could be in Europe again. Remember, we had that a few months back. It could be, whatever country. But it could just be everything and all of us. So embrace it. Attack it with a smile and enjoy our second Mercury retrograde of the year. The next one will be in November, and it'll be in Sagittarius. Okay? So I'm going to get to this chart. It'll just be real quick. We don't have much time, but at least it'll be good to just look at another chart. Any last questions or thoughts about the Mercury retrograde? But I think I gave you a good roadmap of not only what to experience, but really think about that joy, the play, do something creative. We all are very creative. We just don't always acknowledge it. So even in your own individual charts, look at your fifth house. Look at your Mercury and Venus and play with them and activate them and do something during this Mercury retrograde in Leo. I think doing something creative from your heart to bring you love and joy, and to say I love you is going to be a great way to integrate it and deal with it. Okay?
We'll talk later.
Thank you. This was fun. I'll send you, let me check on everybody, and I'll send the download in a little bit. And everybody in the replay, bye.
Bye, love.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. Thank you. Bye.